You know that moment when something completely falls apart and you realize later that it's probably the best thing you ever did? That's exactly what happened with Who's Next. It wasn't supposed to be an album at all. It was supposed to be a sci-fi rock opera that nobody understood, not even most of the band. So let's talk about it. Let's rewind. It's 1971. After their first rock opera, Tommy, hit in 1969, Pete Townshend had big ideas for his next project. Huge ideas. He wanted to make something called Lifehouse, a multimedia dystopian rock opera where people escaped reality by plugging into a simulation. How familiar does that sound? This was way before The Matrix and somehow even more confusing. Pete believed that music could literally save people's souls. He thought that each person had their own unique musical code, and he wanted to write a story, a double album, a film, and a live concert experience to prove it. There was one problem. No one could follow what he was talking about. Not the band, not the label, not the fans. Roger Daltrey famously said during the period that he had no idea what Lifehouse was supposed to be. Eventually, it all fell apart. No double album, no spiritual musical codes, just Pete, completely burned out and on the verge of a nervous breakdown, sitting on a pile of songs with nowhere to go. Enter Glyn Johns. He was a producer. He took one look at the chaos and said something like, "Okay, let's just make this a really good album." And that's exactly what they did. They pulled the best songs from the failed project and shaped them into something much simpler, a tight, powerful, no-nonsense rock album. That album was called Who's Next? Let's talk about the songs. You've heard Baba O'Reilly a million times, probably at a football game or a cop show, but here's what people don't know. That synth loop at the beginning wasn't a loop at all. It was created on an early ARP synthesizer programmed with data based from Pete Townshend's spiritual guru, Mayor Baba. The O'Reilly part came because Pete was very much influenced by an album by a early techno minimalist artist named Terry Riley, an album called A Rainbow in Curved Air. So Baba O'Reilly. Then there's Behind Blue Eyes. Sounds like a sad love song, right? No, it was originally written from the perspective of the villain in Lifehouse, but it works just fine on its own. One of those tracks where it goes from soft and moody to loud and angry halfway through. And somehow it all still feels seamless. Going Mobile deals with the idea of nomadic living, the freedom of the open road. Bargain is a love song. The singer sings, "I'd gladly lose me to find you. I'd gladly give up all I had. To find you, I'd suffer anything and be glad. I'd call that a bargain, the best I've ever had." But Pete wasn't writing that song for a girl. It's actually about Pete's quest for God and knowledge, and was inspired by his guru, Mayor Baba. My Wife is the only John Entwistle song on the album. It's a sort of a comedic take on a marital spat that he had with his wife, and it wasn't part of the Lifehouse project. Entwistle wrote it when he got tired of having to play Boris the Spider, his other big song, in concert. The song Is Over was supposed to be the final song in the Lifehouse project. And of course, the tour de force, Won't Get Fooled Again, one of the most powerful album closers in rock history. Another synth intro, an amazing Roger Daltrey scream, and lyrics that feel like they could have been written yesterday. It's a song about false hope and not falling for the same crap twice. You know, meet the new boss, same as the old boss, rings kind of different in an election year. Meanwhile, behind the scenes, the band was hanging together by a thread. The drummer, Keith Moon, was doing what Keith Moon did, playing like a maniac and keeping himself busy wrecking hotel rooms. John Entwistle was quietly writing his own songs for a solo album, mainly about death and strange family situations. The singer was trying his hardest not to punch Pete in the face. Pete was emotionally wrecked from the collapse of his big idea. It was a big disappointment for him. But somehow, in the middle of all that chaos, The Who pulled off something incredible. Who's Next didn't come from a big vision that worked. It came from a big vision that didn't work. And maybe that's why it holds up so well. There's no filler, no grand concept to explain, no costumes or gimmicks, just 9 songs that hit hard. And this album hit huge. It changed what rock albums in the 70s sounded like. Synthesizers weren't just for weird experimental bands anymore. Now they were part of mainstream rock. Bands like Rush, Genesis, and even the Cars owe a little something to what The Who pulled off with Who's Next. Even The Who themselves couldn't quite top it. Quadrophenia came close. Tommy had more spectacle, but Who's Next just works. Just a band at full strength, peaking whether they knew it or not. So the next time you hear Won't Get Fooled Again blast out of someone's car, just remember it came from a project so confusing the band didn't even finish it. And maybe that's the secret. Sometimes things fall apart and you just make something better out of what's left. Sorry for the quality of my voice today. I'm kind of scratchy. I'm going to put some really cool links in the description. I hope you'll check them out. And thank you so much for watching. If you enjoy my content, please consider subscribing. Hit that bell and maybe give me a like. It helps my channel. And I will see you in the next one.